So this week's how-to video is on how to have a great first date. For some people this comes naturally, for others it doesn't. So the first point is, if you're at dinner, try and pick a restaurant that's quiet. There's nothing worse than sitting there trying to yell at someone over across the table, trying to get yourself heard. Also too, if you do know the restaurant, try and pick somewhere that the chairs are close together. Sometimes you can go to restaurants where the tables are really big for two people. It doesn't matter if it's loud or not. It feels like the person is too far away. It's always good to know a restaurant that you feel feels safe, it feels intimate, it's quiet, we can have a conversation. So it's an overall good environment. If you're doing an activity, this might be a hike, going out kayaking, or not going to the movies, I should say. Make sure it's an activity where you can have a conversation. So this is where the movie one can go wrong. Sometimes for maybe a third date, anything beyond, movies can be a good idea, but you can't always have a conversation in the movies. You know, if it's a movie and a hot chocolate down at Max Brenner afterwards, then that's fine. There's an opportunity to have a conversation, but most of your date will be taken up with sitting in the dark, in silence, watching a movie. So make sure that on that activity that there is room to be able to talk while you're doing that thing. Ask lots of questions of the person, but don't jump subjects. So if they start to talk about their family or their pet or their job, often when people are nervous, they motor mouth and they jump from subject to subject. They ask lots of questions. So it's really good to try and stay on one topic. So if they are talking to you about their family, we'll ask them, do they have siblings? Like, is it crazy? Like, you could say something like, oh, I've got one of those big crazy families. Or what's your family like? Like, oh yeah, it must make Christmas really interesting, doesn't it? You know, try and keep with the one subject so it doesn't feel like you're nervously asking 20 questions and it feels like an interview. Okay, so what do you do? Where do you live? What are your passions? What are your hobbies? Who are your friends? How many siblings do you have? You know, we've all been on those dates where it feels like we're being interviewed. Try and stick to one subject at a time. Now, also while you're on those subjects, ask feeling things. So if someone opens up to you about, well, I had a dog, but unfortunately, last year we had to put him down. He was really old. Well, oh, that must have been really hard. Are you okay with that? Make sure that you address feelings and ask feelings. If somebody tells you about something and it looks like maybe it's an achievement, oh wow, that must have made you really proud. Or it's something sad, oh, was that really difficult for you? Or you can always just ask, well, how did that make you feel? It's really important that we share feelings because that's where we get this space of vulnerability as well, and we really get to know somebody and it allows them to open up. We can stay with the factual of what do you do for a living, how many pets do you have, what car do you drive, all those kind of questions if you're asking what car someone drives on a date. But that's factual, that's logistics. We need to know how someone functions. We need to know how they feel about something. So when it comes to you talking about yourself, talk about your own passion subjects. Now, when I say the word passion subjects, I always think we have a few topics that we can talk really well about that really interest us. So it might be a hobby that you have. It might be a recent experience. It's always good if you're a bit nervous on a first date to actually think of 3 topics that you enjoy talking about that are positive. We're not looking at negative ones necessarily, but positive subjects that you can talk about and also discuss how you feel about them. Just as much as we were saying to the other person, okay, well, talk to me about how you feel asking those questions. It's also really important that you talk about your feelings as well. Maybe have a think about those subjects before you go on your date so there is something for a backup. If you are nervous and you feel like it's affecting your date, flag it. There's nothing wrong with someone perceiving you as odd or weird or peculiar, but really what you're suffering from is nerves. Being nervous can also show somebody that you like them. It's a cute way of saying, I like you so much that you make me nervous. So if you do feel like you're nervous, or say that you've fumbled up the conversation or you've said something really weird, why not say to the other person, I'm so sorry, I'm actually really nervous on this date. They might find it really cute and endearing. Allow awkward silences. When people are nervous and motor mouth on dates, it becomes this table tennis game of conversations and words being thrown back and forth because people are often very anxious about having those awkward moments of silence. That's why they fill in space. That's why they cut off each other's sentences and jump straight in, because they don't want there to be that moment where you're looking at each other going, do I say something? Should they say something? How does this work? Don't worry about an awkward moment of silence. Often for a lot of women, they want to jump in there and talk and talk and talk, and it doesn't give guys sometimes a lot of time to talk. Just move back. Just look at the person, see if they'll fill in the gap. I'm not suggesting you sit there for 10 seconds twiddling your thumbs thinking, okay, she said awkward moments of silence, but this is really bloody awkward. But just have a moment where there's a little bit of a pause. It might give the other person a chance to jump in if you have been motor mouthing. I feel like these days we're all working towards the should do curse, that a date should be a specific way, it should look a specific way, and maybe it should even end a specific way. But I think it's really important that you end at what feels right on the night. That might be not making promises of a second date. It might be one of those situations where you've had a nice night but you don't feel anything. So don't say, I'd love to catch up again. It might be something sexual if that's what feels right for you. It might be a kiss. It might be making plans for another date. Don't necessarily put it into a strict box before you go on the date of how you're going to end it. Why don't you wait to see how the date goes and then see how ending it feels right for you? Okay, so that is my how-to video for this week. Make sure you head over to my website and sign up to my newsletter, because I'll be doing some giveaways and there'll be some chances to win some fantastic prizes that you can use in the bedroom. Okay, bye.